Hey everybody, welcome back to Great Measures, another episode of Monthly Measures. This is for March of 2025. All right, I'm really not going to get into the bigger bands, the Whitechapels, the Cradle of Filth, the Spirit Box, Sleep Token, Arch Enemy. All those bands, much larger bands, had releases this month. If you didn't hear about those, go check them out. But my main focus here is trying to highlight bands that may not have gotten the notoriety or publicity that other bands have gotten. And that's what we're going to do today. So I've got 10 releases. Some of these are singles, some of these are albums, some of these are EPs, but I've got 10 that were released in March of 2025. And we're going to start with a band. Actually, we've got 3 bands starting off, all from the Netherlands. So the Netherlands had a great month in March. I want to just give a shout out to the Netherlands. It was really cool. A band called Antropomorphia. Then it's a single called Unending Hunt. H-U-N-T. This is black and death metal from the Netherlands, released on March the 20th via Testimony Records. This is from a single from the upcoming album called Devoid of Light, and it's set to be released on May the 16th. If you're a fan of Behemoth, you're really going to like this one. I heard a lot of Behemoth tendencies and qualities in this one. Really not much else that I can compare it to. It's very Behemoth-like. Like I said, just straight up black and death metal. Really excited to hear the rest of the album. Up next, another band from the Netherlands. This is melodic black metal. This is a band called, I think it's pronounced Vulg, W-A-L-G. And I'm not even going to try to spell the single. It's a single, the name of the single. It's pronounced Pijnlichaam, I believe is how it's pronounced. The band name Vulg translates to disgust in English. The song name translates to pain body. I did take a quote from their website because it has the perfect description for them. The quote says, "Vulg is inspired by the stupid and overall sickening humankind. Despair, loathing, gloom, and melancholy are the main ingredients for their unique blend of emotional black metal." It's correct. I haven't seen any announcements about an album yet. If you've seen anything like that, let me know. I haven't seen any album names or release dates or anything like that announced. Probably, I know this is taking a leap, but this is probably my favorite black metal release so far from 2025. Probably also my overall favorite release of March, if I had to give a favorite out of this. I'm a big fan of a good, solid acoustic intro to a song, especially when the main theme or the main riff of the song is done in that acoustic intro, and then they just continue it throughout the rest of the song. They pulled that off perfectly on this one. Great vocals, great drumming, great guitars, just really great black metal. Like I said, I don't know if there's an album coming, but I'm really hoping there is, because if it's anything like this single, then it's going to be extremely well done. And last but not least, from the Netherlands, of the trifecta from the Netherlands, this is a band called Cryptosis and an album called Celestial Death. So I wrote this one down as progressive blackened thrash. I think they were just listed as progressive thrash, but this one definitely has some blackened elements to it. They really remind me of Vector and Revocation. It's kind of a mixture of those two bands. I hope that doesn't really simplify what they do, but it's the best way I could describe them. The vocalist sounds a lot like Dave from Revocation, but the music is a perfect mixture of Revocation and Vector. This is their second full-length release. It's pretty much right on par with the first one. There's some sprinkles of synthesizers and mellotron and keyboard arrangements. They're perfectly mixed in with the rest of the instruments. Nothing really gets overshadowed by any of those. Again, that is Celestial Death by Cryptosis. All right, a little bit of a curveball here, especially for any of you that have watched these so far. My tastes, I don't know, I'm kind of stuck in my ways on what I listen to, but this one really stood out to me. This is a band called Pridian, Pridian, and the single is called DINY. It's all caps. I don't know if they pronounce it a certain way or if it's an acronym or what. I couldn't find anything. This is an Estonian band. This is progressive metalcore. It's probably the best way I would describe them. Again, this was a single. It was released on March the 7th from their upcoming debut full-length album called Venetian Dark. It's going to be released on May the 16th via Century Media Records. The song starts with some really dark synth sounds. Kind of puts me in the mind of Stranger Things, I guess is the best way I can put it. The overall mood of the song is pretty somber and sad, and I'm a huge fan of somber music and really, really sad music. There are some clean vocals in here that, you know, in modern metalcore, the clean vocals to me are just too poppy sounding. Like almost like an old school pop punk song or something. But this one doesn't have those. Let me make sure I have that. Make sure I say that out loud. So the clean vocals on this one are really sad and somber sounding as well. They kind of match the rest of the song perfectly. There's a solid breakdown in there. They're not reinventing the wheel with this one or anything like that, but it's just really, really good metalcore, especially for a debut album. I think they're going to be around a while. I don't know anything about the Estonian metal scene. If there are other Estonian metal bands that I need to be checking out, leave a comment, let me know. That was DINY by Pridian. All right, this is kind of another curveball for my tastes. This is a band called March of Scylla, Scylla. It's a full-length album called Andromeda. I think they're listed on Bandcamp as dark post-metal. They're from France. The album was released on March the 7th through Season of Mist. This one is for fans of bands like Tesseract, Gojira, Architects, kind of a mixture of all those. I'm going to do my best to describe how that makes sense. So that they have like the Gojira chugging riffs and the chug, especially their verses in their songs. And the harsh vocals are in the similar style of Gojira as well. You got those guitar harmonies that Tesseract is really known for and well known for. They do that really well. But this is why I say it's a curveball. The choruses, or I guess you would call most of them the choruses, some of them are bridges, but think of the hookiest hook from the entire nu metal era, whatever that is to you. That's how this sounds to me. I'm not saying this is nu metal in terms of the music or the style, but the singing, like whoever the clean singer is, I didn't do a deep dive into the band members or anything, but I would be willing to bet this person was heavily, heavily influenced by nu metal in his singing style. And somehow it fits. I know that doesn't sound like it would make sense with Gojira and Tesseract, but then you throw in these really hooky, catchy hooks that they just fit. I don't know. I really can't I really can't describe it any other way. That's just what it makes me think of, is that new metal era. I was a big fan of this one. I'd never heard this band. I'm still stuck in my ways on judging bands and albums based on the artwork, and the artwork just on this one, the album cover art just kind of seemed very, I don't want this to sound like an insult, but it didn't seem like it was anything outside of the box or out of the ordinary. So I didn't really have much hope for this one when I clicked play on it. But honestly, I couldn't turn it off, and I've listened to it 2 or 3 more times since then, since the first listen. Really good. March of Skyla, Andromeda. Up next, most of you might know this one. This is a release, an album called Lonely People with Power by Deaf Heaven. Been around since 2010, black metal from California. This album was released on March 28th. I mean, there's not much I can say about Deaf Heaven. This band always delivers. You know, the last release, I think it came out in 2021. It was a big change up in style from what they were known for, but it grew on me. But I was really glad to see them kind of get back to their black metal roots with this one. They still sprinkle in a lot of the post metal. They even have some experimental type stuff. There's a couple of tracks on here that are just different. I don't really know how else to explain it. You know, George's vocals, he is his style of vocals is the quintessential, in my opinion, sound of a black metal vocalist. Just perfection. I mean, the way he fits his screams with the riffs, every section of every song, he's just perfectly mapped out his enunciations and everything. I can't say enough good about him. The rest of the band, they're on their top of their game as well with this one. I didn't really have high expectations for it because of the last one, and I was afraid that they had just made a complete shift into a different stylistic mentality, but they got back to their black metal roots, and it's really solid. That was Lonely People with Power by Deaf Heaven. Up next, we'll get into some deathcore from Las Vegas. This is Molotov Solution with an EP called Void. This one was released on March the 21st. It was engineered, mixed, and mastered by Will Putney from Fit for an Autopsy. So, I mean, anything he touches lately has been really, really good. This was their first actual release since 2011. So almost a decade and a half we've been waiting on new Molotov Solution. This one didn't disappoint. You know, there's a lot of bands that go that long without releasing music, and then they come out with something that is not good. But this one was really lived up to the expectations. The production, again, from Will is flawless. Every instrument is pretty much operating with surgical precision on this one. Lots of grooves with a perfect balance of brutality, which is kind of how I like my deathcore. Can't really say much else about that. That was Void by Molotov Solution. All right, we're gonna get into a weird pronunciation. I don't know. All right, this is Norwegian black metal. Pure, straight up, frigid, cold, icy Norwegian black metal. The band spelled Nattverd. I'm going to pronounce it Nattverd. Probably terrible. It's a full-length album, and I'm going to try to pronounce it. Tidloes, Naadesloes. Tidloes, Naadesloes. Whatever. This one was released on March the 21st via Soul Cellar Records. The band name translates to Communion or Last Supper, which is a pretty cool name for a Norwegian black metal band. I don't know what the album name means. I tried to find translations, but I couldn't really find anything. If you know what that means, let me know. Any of you Norwegian people, give me the translation. Shout out to Norway, by the way. Like I said earlier, this is pretty much no frills Norwegian black metal. Really solid quality production, all the above. Can't really say much else. It's really good. That was Tidloes, Naadesloes by Nattverd. Horrible pronunciation, I'm sure. All right, up next, we've got a single called Narrow, Narrow by a band called Seventh, but it's spelled SVNTH. This is post-black metal / post-rock. They're from Italy. This one is a single from the upcoming album Pink Noise Youth, set to be released on April the 18th via These Hands Melt. The only word that really came to mind with this single is entrancing. I felt like I was kind of in a trance the entire time I was listening to this song. It starts with this really reverb-driven, clean, I don't know, guitar riff / picking pattern. Really atmospheric, I guess is the best way to put it. The song shifts through various musical themes. It's not too chaotic though. Everything kind of fits the song perfectly. I'm hoping that the shift in the musical themes from theme to theme in the song is also an indication of what the album's going to be like. Like I said, the album's coming out April the 18th. And really looking forward to that one. That is Narrow, Narrow by Seventh. All right, last but not least, number 10. Another band name that I can't pronounce. It's spelled Tyrmfar. I'm going to call it Termfar. It's an EP called Symbiosis. This is melodic, blackened death metal. I think they were, from what I've heard of them up until this point, they were more straight up melodic black metal, but they added a death metal element into this one. They're from Switzerland. Shout out to the Swiss. This one was released on March the 28th via Wormhole Death. I wrote down melodic, and even more melodic. There's really no other way for me to put it. The vocals match the music perfectly. I tried to think about how to go into detail about this one, but melodic, and more melodic is really the only way I can describe it. I really can't. I don't know how else to do it. It's beautiful, honestly. I wish it was longer, but it's just an EP. The band's been around since 2013. You can tell that they're all in sync with each other on this one, and really looking forward to more of them if this is the direction that they're going with their music. All right, that was it. I'll give a run back through of them real quick. So we started off with Antropomorphia with a single called Unending Hunt. We've got a single from Vogue called Pijnlichaam. We've got an album called Celestial Death from Cryptosis. We've got a single called DINY by Pridian. We've got an album called Andromeda by March of Skyla. We've got an album called Lonely People with Power by Deaf Heaven. An EP called Void by Molotov Solution. An album called Tidloes Naadesloes by Nattverd. Got a single called Narrow, Narrow by Seventh, and we've got an EP called Symbiosis called Termfar. Anyways, those are the 10 that I wanted to highlight this month. It's gonna, the amount is going to change from month to month. To be honest with you, it was a stretch for me to find 10 in March. Other than like I said, the bigger bands that I listed earlier, the Whitechapels, the Cradle of Filth, the Spirit Box, Arch Enemy, Sleep Token. They all had big releases in March, but I want to highlight bands that, like I said, might not be getting the love that everybody else is getting. Yeah, that's it. I don't know. I'm trying to think of how else to explain how March was. March was weird. There was almost a 2-week span where I listened to new releases every day, and I didn't really find anything that I wanted to highlight. And then they closed out the month really well. The 21st and the 28th had some really good releases. Yeah, that's it. So this was March 2025 episode of Monthly Measures. My name is Richard. Thanks for tuning in and have a wonderful day.